This is the month 5 update for my first planted tank. The tank contains neon tetras, chili rasboras, Corydoras, a honey gourami and a ton of shrimp, but the focus of this monthly follow along is plants, so let's start there. So this tank has been having problems with blackbeard algae for a month or two now, and I did try and restrict the lighting period this month to see if it would help. Even though the plants in this tank are all low light plants, I did notice them starting to yellow after about a week of the shorter lighting period. I think that the amount of duckweed on the surface of the tank was compounding the issue by blocking out a lot of the light as well, so I decided to go back to the regular lighting schedule for the tank. The plants that were yellowing have already bounced back, but the blackbeard algae is also spreading with this light. So I do want to try some Seachem Flourish Excel this month to see if that'll help deal with it. I have worked out an easy way to manage the duckweed in this tank now, and I actually got this tip from Irene on the Girl Talks Fish channel. Instead of trying to use a net to remove the duckweed, I've switched over to using a cheap hair comb as it's so much easier, so now I'm not bothered about having the duckweed in the tank. The Java Fern Latifolia is starting to grow through the hole in the driftwood and restrict the swimming space for some of the fish, so I might have to trim this soon, but I am trying to put that off because my honey gourami loves to hide in the leaves of this plant. The various Anubias plants in the tank seem to just be cracking on and doing their own thing, and they just constantly grow without issue. The Anubias that melted back at the start of the tank is starting to get back into its growth stride, and it's good to see healthy growth month on month. As I mentioned last month, some Java moss ended up anchoring to this Anubias naturally in the water flow, and it is starting to grow out too, so I'm just going to leave that to see what happens for now. The main section of the Java moss on the driftwood is also growing at a rapid pace, and my shrimp seem to love it, but this is starting to get infected with blackbeard algae too. I've also noticed that the blackbeard algae is starting to get on the edges of the new Java Fern and bulbitis plants that I added a couple of months back, so that needs dealing with. If I can't manage the blackbeard algae with the Flourish Excel, then I'll try and limit the food intake in the tank to limit nutrients and do a blackout with totally restricting the lighting period. The duckweed in this tank grows at an insane speed, and it's easily the fastest growing floating plant I've ever kept in one of my tanks, but the comb method does make it very easy to remove, so I'm not that bothered about it anymore. There's no emergent plants in this tank right now, but I might add some pothos in a month or two, as the pothos in my 40-gallon tank is starting to take off and it can help deal with water parameters. Moving on to the fish in the tank, and my neon tetras have been constantly chasing each other this month, so I'm not sure if they're starting to spawn or something. It actually got so bad that there were 2 groups of neon tetras in the tank at one point, with 7 fish occupying the front of the tank and 2 fish retreating to the back. Thankfully the chasing does seem to have stopped over the last couple of days, and I've seen all 9 neon tetras swimming together a couple of times. My chili rasboras just do their own thing every day, and they don't really pay attention to anything else. They come over for food and then they school around the tank and chill out, so they're not really having any problems. The chili rasboras have kept their deeper red colour after months of having the dingy orange, so I'm guessing that they're happy in this tank and feel calm and relaxed. My Corydoras are as crazy as ever, and they just look for food or chill out on the substrate constantly. There's no real in between with these. The 2 new baby Corydoras that I added a couple of months back are growing quickly, and it's not going to be long before I can't tell the difference, and they're the same size as the adults. My honey gourami still hides most of the time, but I do see him swimming around a lot more than he has the last 2 months. Moving on to the inverts in the tank, and the pest snail population is still just tracking sideways, so I'm guessing this is because of the explosion in the cherry shrimp population that are eating a lot of the food the pest snails were. I've ordered some horned neurite snails for this tank as well, because I've seen people saying that they can help with BBA, so I'm going to give them a little test and see how that goes. The cherry shrimp in this tank are still constantly breeding, and I would have guessed there was over 200 of them in this tank earlier this month. Since then I have moved some of my cherry shrimp to my shrimp jar, some to the 40-gallon tank, and I've actually sold some of these, so there's probably less than 100 in this tank now, but I do have some new buried females in there. The 4 Armano shrimp in this tank are definitely more active when the lights are dimmer, and the 2 original Armano shrimp are absolutely huge now and almost as big as the adult Corydoras. I do see the 2 newer Armano shrimp from time to time, but they definitely seem to prefer just grazing on the plants. Just to quickly touch on the hardscape in the tank, because last month I mentioned that I was worried about the wood particles from the mangrove driftwood causing problems with the gills of my fish. I've been doing 2 30% water changes and 2 sponge cleans on the filter per week to manage the amount of wood particles in the water column, and it is helping. Although I would rather put that time and effort into something else relating to my tanks, I do worry about any potential damage the wood particles are causing to the fish, so for now I'm not that bothered about it. Ideally I would like to keep this tank as it is for at least 12 months, but if I can't deal with the blackbeard algae problem, then I probably will rescape this in a month or two, and the mangrove root will definitely be gone. Anyway, that brings the update to an end. Thanks for watching guys, and have a good day.